Hey friends and family, this is Pastor Daniel McElroy with Overcoming Global Ministries, and this video I want to share with you three things God is showing me concerning the prophetic movement and the prophetic ministry in our country, in the United States of America. Listen, if you have not done so, there's a link right below this description that will take you to our Facebook group. This Facebook group is for any Christian, all believers, but we are really gearing up to empower and equip people in the area of spiritual warfare, end-time prophecy, prayer, and intercession, and including the prophetic ministry. Okay, and so just go join that community, be a part of the engagement, the interactions. It's still pretty new, so we're building up that community as well as subscribing to this YouTube channel for our podcast. So I'm not going to be before you guys long. I just want to share with you what I believe God is saying regarding the prophetic ministry. Those of you who are a part of the Pentecostal and the Charismatic Church, you see a lot of the controversy, the discourse, the back and forth that is happening within the prophetic ministry. If you're not, either you are blind or you're disconnected, and I'm not even upset at you. There's three things that I want to share with you, okay? Number one, credibility. Number two, cleansing. And number three, correction. You know, there's a lot of things that are going on in the prophetic ministry right now. And I believe that there is an assault coming from the kingdom of darkness to try to discredit, okay, the prophetic movement. You know, in Ephesians chapter 4, it says that when Jesus ascended, he gave gifts unto man. And so when you think about the fivefold ministry, the apostle, the prophet, pastor, teacher, evangelist, each of those functions and each of those gifts is the Greek word for doma or doma, and each of those expressions of Jesus are a different manifestation of Jesus himself. In other words, if we go throughout the Gospels, you can see in various moments in Jesus's life and even when his ministry, you can see the apostolic, you can see the pastor. The Bible says that he was looking upon the people and his heart was moved into compassion because he saw sheep without a shepherd. You could see the teaching. Most of Jesus's ministry was that of teaching. So when you think about the fivefold ministry, it's an expression of Jesus. He is the sum totality of what we call the fivefold ministry. One of the things that's happening in the prophetic movement right now is the enemy is trying to discredit one of the expressions of Jesus Christ in the church, which is the prophetic. It is the prophet. It is the oracle of God, the mouthpiece of God, the revelatory manifestation of God in the earth through the prophetic ministry. I'm making this video, number one, credibility, because I want to acknowledge as I'm getting ready to share that there are so many things that are happening that in some instances our response is disappointment, our response is hurt, our response is shock. And I want to let you know that God is with you and I. He's with us. He's present in that emotion and in those reactions as we are witnessing things. But I want you to realize how the enemy wants to pervert the things that you are seeing unfold, or perhaps they're being unveiled regarding the prophetic ministry and even God's priesthood, essentially representing God's pastors, his leaders. The enemy wants to use that to release a spirit of accusation that not only will we find ourselves as Christian people biting and devouring one another. Remember, Paul spoke about that. Be careful that you don't bite or devour one another, lest you hear this, consume. The enemy wants to propagate the behavior of spiritual cannibalism in the church. And so that's one thing that we have to guard our heart from. Number two, we also have to make sure that we do not allow what we see, even failure and shortcomings, to cause us to do what? To discredit the prophetic ministry. Remember when Paul said, do not despise prophecy, but hold fast to that which is good or that which is true. So number one, credibility. He's coming after credibility. Number two, cleansing. Okay, let's just acknowledge that we're seeing over the last 4, maybe 8 years, we've seen a lot of false prophecy increase. We've seen a lot of political narratives built into prophecy, if I can say that. We've seen popularity. We've seen popularity replace the true stream of the prophetic. And so I think that one of the things that is happening is God is allowing us, here it is, to see our blind spots. I really want you to hear me as I say this. I think that one of the mistakes that we've made as a people who receive from God's leadership is believing that because one is anointed or gifted, that they don't have blind spots. One of the things that I believe God is allowing to be unveiled is the revelation and the realization that we have blind spots. You have blind spots. No matter how gifted, no matter how anointed, we have blind spots. And hear me as I say this. That blind spot can impact, here it is, our prophetic perspective and our prophetic stream. Cleansing is something that is taking place. You know why? Because I believe that our blind spots as prophets, as pastors, as teachers, but I'm focusing in on the prophetic ministry. Our blind spots have given birth to diluted prophetic intel and perspective. And so we see God taking the prophetic ministry through a place of exposure so that God can cleanse us, so that we can return back to a place of prophesying from a pure stream and vein that has not been polluted or diluted by personal, interpersonal, emotional perspective and philosophies of men. Does that make sense? The second thing that I think is happening is correction. Okay? The primary example or the primary goal of the prophetic ministry, yes, foretelling and forthtelling. And please go to the mentorship page because we're going to be equipping each other in the area of the prophetic. And right now it's free content, free teaching, free information. Yes, it's to forthtell. Yes, it's to foretell. But the primary responsibility of the prophetic is to be an emulation or to emulate Jesus Christ. Again, if we go back to Ephesians 4, he gave gifts unto men, and each of them are an expression of himself. There's a lot of correction that is going on because there's been a lot of injustice. There's been a lot of lording. There's been a lot of abuse and manipulation in the name of the role and the ministry of the prophet. Here it is, that cannot be reconciled back to the nature and the character of Jesus. Essentially, Christ is not going to permit us from advertising that we are prophets and that this is a prophetic ministry, when in fact the spiritual characteristic of our ministry cannot be reconciled back to the blueprint and the behavior of Jesus Christ. And so we see a lot of correction, and that correction looks like readjustment and realigning. Realigning what? Realigning our heart and our characteristic back into the nature and the fruit of Jesus Christ. What does that mean? I'll give you an example, and this is my last one. I'll give you a practical example. The Bible says in Philippians that although he was God, he did not equate himself as God, but he took upon the form of a servant, a slave. Sometimes, yes, I believe in the acknowledgement of apostles and prophets. I believe in that. But sometimes the overemphasis of, hey, I'm an apostle, hey, I'm a prophet, I'm a prophet, I'm a prophet, I'm a prophet, sometimes it gives birth to a spirit or a characteristic that is contrary to the behavior that we see in Jesus' ministry, where although he was God, he did not equate himself as God, but took upon the position of one who does what? Who is a servant. The last thing that we're seeing right now is a correction. The correction is this. If we are truly called to the ascension gifts, fivefold ministry, that means that our assignment, our behavior, what we cloak ourselves into is that of a servant. If I'm truly a prophet, my ministry is to serve you, to edify you, to build you up until you come into the full maturation and the stature of Christ, where you are no longer little children tossing to and fro with every wind of doctrine. I'm a servant. That's the prophetic ministry. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel, share this video with somebody, head over to Facebook, join that community, engage, interact. We're still building it up. Even share some questions perhaps that you may have regarding the prophetic ministry. Again, this is Pastor Daniel McElway with Overcoming Global Ministries. God bless and thank you for watching.